Hey guys, gals, and NBs. I have a pedal from Strymon today, and it was given to me by Strymon, and this is a super exciting video for me, because this is my first time a company has contacted me that I actually cared about and offered me a pedal. Of course I said yes. It was the Brig that they sent me, and I'm super excited to share it with you guys. This is a sponsored video in terms of I get to keep this pedal, but I wasn't given any money, and Strymon isn't reviewing this video before I put it up or telling me what to say. They didn't even tell me to make a video. They basically said, hey, do you want to have a pedal? And we would love to see what you would do with it. So I'm making a video, obviously. So yeah. So thanks to Jack over at Strymon for sending me the pedal, and thanks to Hugo over there for answering some technical questions for me. I would hope that they would want to deal with me in the future as well. So I'm totally open for that, especially with Strymon. So this isn't going to be a review. I don't think I could be objective since I was given a free pedal, but I love Strymon products. Mostly everything except for this I've bought directly myself that are Strymon devices. Go through my videos. You can see how many of them I use in my songs and stuff. I just really like their stuff. So the Brigadier is this pedal right here. I don't have it fully up on the screen, but yeah, so the Brig is replacing the Brigadier. The Brigadier is now a classic pedal that is no longer made by them, and the Brig is a newer, modern take on it with some more features, and it's only missing one feature, and that is the bucket loss knob. But honestly, I'll get into it later. I don't miss it at all. I hardly ever really changed it too much on this. I set it and basically forget it and used it the way it was, like, yeah, so we'll get into that. But so yeah, let's get into some of the technical details behind the pedal, or some of the other functionality behind it. I should say it's one of their small form factor pedals. If you can see here, it's actually tiny compared to one of their others. Like, two of these pedals almost fit into the form factor, just a little bigger than one of the standard form factor Strymon pedals. They are stereo in, stereo out. The Brig does some to mono for the effects section. So while the dry signal is completely stereo through it, it will sum it to mono for the wet section, and it'll create its own stereo image. We'll listen to how the stereo image is created. It's actually really nice and wide. And there's even a ping pong mode, which is super exciting. You heard the ping pong mode in the opening demos to this thing. So for the stereo operation, you will need TRS to TS splitters. They're really cheap and easy to get a hold of. You see them right here. Yeah, so plenty of pedals use that. The Chase Bliss pedals, the new stereo ones, use that. The Red Panda pedals use it, so it's not out of the ordinary. Nothing comes in the box for that. You don't get a power supply either, but the cool thing is, as far as the press release I got for the Brig, it's supposed to be released at $259, which is actually cheaper than the pedal it's replacing. That's kind of a first for Strymon, so that's really cool. And I feel, other than the bucket loss knob, you get more functionality. And now you have the filter knob on the front, and it's not a secondary feature like on the Brigadier was. And it's easier to say because it's just Brig, so that's cool. The other thing is you have tap tempo built into the pedal. You don't need external tap tempo. We'll get into that. There's some cool things you can do with that. And yeah. So let's get on to what it emulates, and it emulates Bucket Brigade devices. I have a little bit of background with Bucket Brigade devices. I've designed some circuits around them long time ago and have messed with them in the audio context. So it does use one of my favorites, or it has one of my favorites in it as an emulation. That's the MN3005. That's a Panasonic or Matsushita part, MN being Matsushita National, something like that, I believe. And then you have the 3205, which is also a Panasonic Matsushita part. And you have a multi-mode, which is different, but we'll get into that. So the 3205 is what they call in the manual, Strymon does, a low voltage part. By low voltage, it runs on a 5-volt rail. It has fairly low headroom, and it has fairly low signal-to-noise ratio. You have the 3005, which is it's a higher voltage part. It runs on a negative voltage rail, so it's actually negative 15 volts, and that means it has a much more headroom, and it also has a much higher signal-to-noise ratio. in the real thing. Obviously, this is emulation. It doesn't have the real parts in it. It runs on a DSP, runs on an ARM processor, just like the Cloudburst. So that's cool. And then it has the multi-mode, which are 2 clean bucket brigade device or emulations that run in a ping pong configuration. And one of the taps off of that runs in golden ratio, something you can do with the Dig. Sounds absolutely fantastic. It's almost the sole reason I own a Dig, and it adds so much ambience to it, and we'll hear that. So I have the Korg Wavestate here, and I have one of my favorite patches that I made, which is the 5th harp patch. And I'm going mono out into mono in, and then this is creating a stereo image. And then it is running the stereo image into the Cloudburst here, and yeah. So yeah, we'll hear the 3205. This is going to be the grittiest out of it, and we'll have the time set to the maximum that it can do for this one. This should do 300 milliseconds, I believe, with the time knob. There's an override to that, and we'll look at that in a minute. But yeah. And just like the Cloudburst, having it at around 3 o'clock for the mix gives you 50-50. The Dig does the same thing. It's just a thing with Strymon pedals. So there's no stereo image. I hope you're listening to this on headphones or on studio monitors or something with a nice stereo spread. But let's bring up the mod. Not only do we get beautiful modulation, we also get a stereo image now. And the mod can go insane. So that's vibrato. So at the middle point, you go over to vibrato speed, and at the on the left side, you basically get just standard like chorusy modulation. Gets a little out of hand towards the top here. Actually, I take that back. It sounds quite beautiful there. But let's add a little more repeats here. Actually, yeah, I take that back. That still sounds fantastic and not out of hand at all. So yeah, we'll keep it around there for the modulation here. So yeah, that's the 3205. It maxes out at 300 milliseconds on this specific implementation of the emulation to it. So then we'll go to the 3005. This is the higher headroom part. And it maxes out at 1 second with the knob fully turned up. Also sounds gorgeous. All right, let's go back to the 3205 and let's mess with the filtering. So filtering going counterclockwise will start to engage a low pass filter along with a little bit of peak resonance, and it'll add bucket loss. It adds it all in. So you get noise, bucket loss, filtering. It's actually really wonderful because there's no bad setting, in my opinion, to it. If you turn it all the way down, you get low pass and high pass filtering. It's almost like band passing. I keep it right around here, as you saw from my opening videos. And here's where the magic of the Brig really comes in. It almost has on the cusp like self-oscillation going right around 3 o'clock on the repeats here, but it doesn't quite get that. It gets that magical whooshy repeats. I talked about that a little bit in the Universal Audio Galaxy video I did recently, but as you can hear there, it gives you this beautiful pad just of ambience. Many people don't think of an analog delay as an ambient generation device, and I don't. A real analog bucket brigade delay doesn't really give you a lot of ambience. It either fizzles out or goes into self-oscillation. Something like the Brig, or in previous times the Brigadier, gives you the feel of a bucket brigade device delay, but it gives you the ambience of a modern digital delay, and that's what I really like about it. in my shootout with a bunch of analog pedals. You can find that on my channel. I said the Brigadier is still my favoritely voiced pedal. Well, that's changed now. The Brig is. So. And I'd much use it over a real analog pedal any day for synth use. Plus, it's got stereo. So yeah, the filtering's lovely there. So we'll go back to this. So you got that about 1 second. Just keeps going, it fizzles out, just lovely with filtered repeats and everything. And now we'll go to the mode that makes this thing amazing, and that's the multi-mode, where we get the golden ratio second tap repeats. It does what the dig does, but with an analog flair to it, and that's why I love it. And that's why I see myself using it quite a bit. So when I need something gritty and dark, I will definitely reach for this, especially if I need a ping pong delay that's gritty and dark. All right, let's go into one of the cool things that it can do since it has tap tempo. So we'll go back into the 3205. And so the interesting thing is, normally we would be stuck with 300 milliseconds. But if we engage tap tempo, we get 2 seconds of delay time in all the modes. I think one of the taps gives you 2 seconds. We'll try it out. But now I'll count it in. So you hold down the bypass switch until you get a blue blinking red and blue light. And then you just tap in, just like a regular tap delay. Or you can use the expression input, which is also, it doubles as a MIDI input, just like the Cloudburst. Yeah, we'll get into that in a little later. But yeah. So I'll count in 2 seconds. 1001, 1002, 1001, 1002. Bad with tap tempo, but whatever. You get the idea. So it'll blink every 2 seconds about 1000. Yeah, whatever. Now we have a 3205 delay, or Bucket Brigade device delay, with 2 seconds of repeats. And we can hear the grittiness there. It's beautiful. Just listen to it die out. I'll just do a few notes and just listen to them die out as they kind of just get lost in the ether of what is a Bucket Brigade device. And now that we tapped in a time, if I switch to a different mode, we'll have the same tap tempo. It's global in this case, I believe. Now in this mode, the 3005, I want you to listen and it's much cleaner. Still gets very smeary at the end of those repeats, but it's lovely. And then we go in the multi-mode, which is the ping pong delay. And that's gorgeous. It kind of dies out where everything just melds together in this mode, and that's what's really, really nice about it. And the other thing that you should notice that if you tap in a time, there's no pitch changing like a regular, like you would have in a real Bucket Brigade device delay. But if we switch back to using the knob as the time, now we'll get pitch changing if you really want that. I should mention the filter has different emulations in each of the modes, so yeah. And as you can see, we have the Cloudburst next to me, so we're going to go into another patch that I made, one of my favorites. It's a strings patch, it's a 5th strings patch. I made it in kind of like the idea of making Ghibli-esque music, you know, like Spirited Away style tracks. Well, let's hear it without. All right. Lovely, but boring at the same time. I don't know how else to put it. It needs effects. It just excels with effects. So let's turn this on. And that's literally just with a delay pedal. There's no reverb engaged yet at all. So let's go ahead and let's just engage the Cloudburst here by itself so we can hear what that sounds like. I have no delay turned on. Tone controls about here. I don't have the ensemble mode on. The ensemble sounds really weird with the string going into it because you're adding extra resonance and stuff like that to make it sound like strings. So actually, let's just hear it. Doesn't really add to it, kind of sounds weird. But yeah, so we'll just keep it like this. And now, if we engage the 2, we get this basically continually repeating into the Cloudburst, and it just gives you these long, beautiful decays. So let's do that. Let's go with a lower octave. Add a little more modulation on Cloudburst. Let's turn off Cloudburst. It's a little too low for those samples, but yeah, absolutely gorgeous. It's just a wonderful combination. It's kind of the combination you get with the dig. That's why I love using the dig with other pedals, but with the flair of an analog delay, and it's exactly kind of what I wanted. It's surprising because I've always wanted a ping pong stereo delay, and the closest thing like stereo analog delay, the closest that I've really gotten to it was using something like the UAFX, the Starlight, where it has the divisions that let you do a stereo ping pong delay with it. But I didn't like the voicing as much as I like the Brigadier. So finally I get a analog delay I just love, or analog like delay I like. All right, so some other differences. Well, the only other major difference between the new Brig and the old Brigadier is, unfortunately, you don't get the 5 seconds of delay time. I don't know how super useful that was to certain people, but yeah, that is the only other caveat you got switching over to the new Brig. So, yeah, I love it. Again, I can't, I don't know, it's not going to come off as genuine for me to say that it's like a really good pedal because I was given to me for free, but I think it's a very good pedal. It sounds absolutely fantastic. I tried to demo it as objectively as possible. You can hear for yourself that it's a very good sounding pedal. I'm definitely going to use it in things. It's just fantastic. So yeah, I would have to say that I hope that Strymon deals with me for future releases of pedals. I'm more than willing to deal with them as a company. To make videos, and this was really fun. I was super excited again about it. If you like this kind of stuff, how about you like this video, comment on it, and subscribe if you like my channel. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Thank you again, Strymon, for even considering me to show the world the Brig.